That's an interesting question, actually. Um,
Sorry.
I actually, no, like, honestly, I'm like, I have to think about, because one client just doesn't pop off the top of my head, um, because I have done such, an array of different things. Um, you know what? I have to think of the one that I had the longest. I had this older woman, with she had a place in Pickering, and she also had an apartment downtown Toronto, and she would go back and forth with her and her dog and her stuff all the time. And so I was driving her back and forth, and it was just really surprising how, uh, she had, lots of money, and yet she had this like nomadic, like she would just move around a lot. She didn't
Right.
really stay in one spot, and she was very fascinating because of, she was a political writer for the Toronto Star. So we start with that. And then she would attend all of these events, and I was driving her to these, and so I got to meet, all of these people that used to run the province and run the country, and it just kind of blew my mind. Like, I'm like, oh my god, like it was very surreal at times, because here even as a kid watching these people on TV, and here I am being introduced and talking to them. One of my favorites was, do you know Jean Augustine?
I know that name.
You know
The
that
name,
name,
yeah,
yeah.
the name. Yeah.
You recognize the name, yeah. So she's, huge in that. So she had, they were throwing a big 80th birthday party, like this huge elaborate event, obviously before COVID hit. And yeah, so she wanted to be driven out there. So my husband and I are like, yeah, we'll drop you off, and we'll go and take care of something else. We never did something else because they sucked us in, and they're like, no, you have to stay. So my husband and I sat there at the table with all these people celebrating her birthday. It was just, yeah,
Wow.
and driving out to these people's houses to take her. So yeah, it's been a fun journey. It really has, to tell you the truth.
So have you had any like strange or weird requests?
Strange or weird requests? Yes. And I can think of one. The first one I can think of it was a daughter who, could you go and have, make lunch for my dad and maybe play cards with him? Well, he's 94, and he was a really handsy kind of person. That makes sense. So it was a little uncomfortable for me, right? Like, and then it was like, okay, how do I get out of this? Because it got to the point where I was feeling uncomfortable. Like, I worked in an old folks home from the time I was 17 till the time I was 24. Being around older people doesn't bother me. I actually quite like it. I have no, I get along really, but this was just, it got to be too much, and it made me feel uncomfortable. So if I feel uncomfortable, like if people put me in an uncomfortable, and trust me, it takes a lot, then yeah, that's not for me anymore. Cause it's like, look, you're looking for something else, buddy. I'm just here to make you lunch and play cards, there's nothing else happening. So that would be one of the strange ones. And, sometimes you think, like I've had people reserve my time because I do offer a free half-hour consultation, and I've walked into places that are not for me. They're, very, I'm just trying to think of the proper word, because the only thing I can think of is just disgusting. When somebody has really let it go, and
Like a
the
hoarder
animals, like hoarding without the stuff. Does that make sense? Like, it's just like they've had animals, and so when you open the door and the smell hits you first, you're like, oh, this is not for me. So
we know that
I've
real estate all too well.
well, exactly. And like, I've had it like twice, literally within the last few months. And so, I've gone out and seen these people, and I'm like, my heart breaks because, they're in a really bad position. But it's not, this is more than what I'm like, you need hazmat kind of stuff.
Right.
So, like the last two people, I said to both of them, like, look, I'm so sorry. I don't want to waste your time, but this is not for me. However, the fact that you're reaching out, you realize you need help, I will get back to you. It might take me a week or two to find the right, and it did. It took me 2 weeks to find the right company to help the people. And then I called them back. Here's your connection. I called the company, get in touch with, and I just literally connected them and then stepped back. Right. Because I thought that's the best that I can do for them, especially since they've made that decision that they've reached their limit of what they can live within. So
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. And, you know, like dealing with hoarding, like we've just kind of finished up dealing with one family that had been in the house for over 20 years, and it was a lot. They hadn't cleaned in a very long time. It was very dusty, very dirty. It was a very tight space. And so, you know, my assistants and I, we all agreed this is the limit. We will not go any worse than this, because it was a lot on us, like physically. And just like having to go through everything, it was just kind of gets to the point where it's like, okay, that's enough, you know. But I'm feeling like, how are these people living in this? If it's bothering, like, you know, I always say it's bad if I have to come home and change my clothes and have a shower. That's a bad one.
Right.
Because I don't normally have to, you know, I don't normally do that. So.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. You know, like I say, I don't judge. It's literally just walking in and being like, you know, sometimes it's overwhelming even to me, you know, and so then I have to take a step back and be like, okay, where are we? Let's just start. We have to just start here at the door, and we'll work our way into the house kind of thing.
Because with a hoarder, there's no way of knowing the time it will take, because there's emotions sometimes mixed in with the items in the home. So that would be hard.
Exactly.
That would be hard for anyone to do, but hard for your business, considering that you have set times per day that you do this.
Yeah. And like this particular one that we were dealing with, the husband was like, yep, let's pack it all up. And it was her that had the attachment. And it was her that had, oy vey, she had hung on to stuff, like they're my age. So like, you know, 50s. She still had stuff from elementary school, her schoolwork. And I'm thinking, why are you hanging on to this? This makes no sense to me. And you try and kind of like present it to them, but if they're not ready, then pack it. They can deal with it after. Like I try to be very sensitive, but really like, okay, what's the purpose of hanging on to this? Like I had this one agents hired me to help them. And when I got into the basement, it wasn't like the basement was packed, but there were boxes that had floppy disks. Who has the capabilities to use a floppy? And we're not talking as like, we're talking boxes of floppy disks. He also had all kinds of slides. And the kicker was, now this is dating. Do you remember the old printers that went clunk, 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 clunk?
Yes.
He had the printouts, boxes and boxes of this paper printout. And I'm like, why? Like it didn't, like to me, that didn't make any sense. And he'd been dragging, like carrying it with him for decades. And I'm like, why? Recycle it, let it go.
Wow.
You know? And he did. You know, like these were people like this particular couple. She wanted to meet me first before agreeing for me to help her. And that's fine. I'll give you the consult. And it turns out like she was very upfront saying, look, I have social anxiety. And, you know, so I want to make sure I'm going to be okay with you. And I'm like, hey, I get it. And if I'm not the right person, I totally understand that. Thank you for the opportunity. I ended up working with her. And, you know, they did really well. And, you know, I can even tell when people are starting to shut down, because it's a lot to go through your stuff. If you haven't gone through it, it's a lot emotionally. And I can tell when people start to shut down because they're starting to reminisce, they're going through things. And I'm standing there watching them do this. And I'm like, you know what, let's just call it a day because you're tired. I can tell you're tired. And I said, you did, you know, and I always give positive reinforcement, like you did really well. Look at how much you've accomplished. Why don't you rest the rest of the day? And when the time is done, that's it. Like if you've booked me for 4 and we're done after 3, I charge you for 3 because that's it. My time is it. People either underestimate or overestimate how long it's going to take. Okay. A lot of times it's the over guessing. Like I had a woman, she thought it was going to take 2 days to go through her basement. She was insistent that I come and give her a consult. So I did. I had a look and I said, 2 of us working together? And she's like, yeah. And I said, I'm thinking 4, maximum 6 hours. She's like, 1 day? And I'm like, yeah. We had it done in 3.5 hours. Because I don't stop. Like I'm like pulling people, okay, let's go, next box. And I go through everything. I'm sticking my hands in pockets. I'm opening up bags, opening up everything. Because like I said, I found so much money, and my best one is a client that was getting rid of a purse. And she's like, oh, just throw it. There's nothing in it. And I'm like, no, let me check. Good thing I did, because it was an envelope with $5,000 cash in it.
Holy.
I don't make this up. I'm not making this up. Like I couldn't believe when I'm like, Rosemary, there's 5,000. And I'm like, opened it up and I'm like, oh my God, I almost couldn't believe it. And so
Wow.
that's why I said the amount of cash I have found, like, I helped an agent whose house had a fire. And so everything got thrown in. And so I'm now pulling it out. I'm finding, Chinese New Year. So envelopes with cash, birthday cards with cash stapled, gift cards for hundreds and hundreds of dollars each. Like, it was just insane. It was like Christmas. Here you go. Here's all this back to you.
Wow.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Like I said, it is crazy. Like, people, because they just shove things in bags, and bags go in bags, and bags go under beds, or bags go, so I literally will pull it all apart, and try and break it down to recycling, excuse me, donations, garbage. And the objective is very little to go in the garbage. Like, the landfills are full enough. So donations, if you have items that are still usable, that you have enough. I've been supporting, there's 2 organizations here that I've been supporting for some time, and it has changed, but for the past year and a half, it's been one, and it is called the Community Closet. And it was created, you have heard of it. So it's Jennifer Dempsey and her husband, Rick, who's Chuck It Services. So I've used those guys. I worked with them a lot. So she created this like a year ago, November, and she is targeting the BIPOC members of Durham. So I know once in a while I hear when I bring big donations, right? Because I'll let her know. And I also ask her, because I don't want to just dump. It's not a dumping ground. It's like, I want to make sure she can use these things. So I will ask, hey, like, I've got books and toys. Will you take those? She's like, yes. So, anything that I'm not sure of, I will ask. And now I've got the code that I can go anytime and just go deposit the stuff, even if they're not open. Like, I've got the code to the box to get into the place now. So, like, 2 examples I know of, because I just heard of them, was this one woman, I pulled out close to 20 bags of girls' clothes that she has 2 girls, they had outgrown them, had never worn them. So she'd had all these clothes. So I took the bags, donated them, and the Afghan Women's Association was able to get clothes for new immigrants, which was awesome to hear. And then I helped another woman who was going through divorce, and we purged toys. And I heard that all the toys that I donated went to a mom of 3, a single mom of 3.
Oh, that's awesome.
So I did hear those 2. So sometimes I hear and sometimes I don't. So I like to share that, it is helping the community. The other woman if I catch what she's looking for, is she helps kids that are maxing out of CAS. So when they hit 18, they're literally handed a garbage bag to carry their items. And that to me is disgusting. So anytime I come across suitcases or bags, I take them to her, drop them off at her house. She also does posts on Facebook. So she'll be helping, women that are coming out of shelters, people coming off the streets. So she's looking for apartments. Well, they need furniture. They need stuff to get themselves set up. So I try and help her as well. So anybody's got excess furniture goes to her.
Can you send us this information of people? Because, like, sometimes we sell stuff or we sell homes and there's things left over, and we'd love to donate to this, right?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I'll send you that information as to, for the community closet. And like I said, I've got codes I can get you in, because I'm actually going tomorrow. I was at a house last week, and I purged all these toys, and there's bags. I think there's like 12 bags of toys, and I'm going to go pick them up and take them to them tomorrow.
Nice. Wow. No, that'd be great. Yeah, because sometimes we buy houses, sell houses, people don't know what to do with the stuff, and it'd be nice to be able to donate to somebody who would make better use of it, right?
Yeah, exactly. And there's always a need. And like I said, I just don't want this stuff to go into the landfill or even value village or anything that's making profit. I'm not interested in helping. There are people in our community with a need, and there are people that can, it's just connecting the dots in the community. That's really all it is.
I like that. Yeah. No.
Well, Michelle, thank you so much. Honestly, wow.
Well, thank you. Well, thank you so much. Well, thank you so much. And I just want to let you know, like, I do carry insurance. I've carried insurance 6 months into this. Yeah. So I am insured. And, like I said, I always say to people, if you're not sure if it's something I can help you with, ask.
Yeah.
And if it's not me, I will connect you with somebody if you don't know which direction to go to. So
So if people want to get a hold of you, they just have to call your number 647-204-9823.
Yep, they can contact it. Yep, or go to go4girl.com. There is also a book now. And on that book now, it takes you to my intake form. And it just gets a bunch of the information that I need to start. And then we will connect a date, because I look in my calendar to see when I can fit you in. Right. And if I need to arrange more help. So, I always say, fill out the intake form, because within 24 hours, we're talking and we're getting you booked in. So we just try to coordinate everything. So
awesome. And again, you're on social at Go4Girl 14 on Facebook and Go4Girl 14 on Instagram.
Yes, I am.
Michelle,
and I'll put that with the interview as well, so you'll see that.
Thank you.
Love it. I love seeing this, honestly.
No.
Well, thank you so much. I continue to truly believe in. It's a great idea. It's, people just don't have time, and right. They're overwhelmed with stuff. So, I have been referred to as a professional wife without the nagging. So, whatever.
I like that. That's the best line.
Well,
and I can take you from chaos to calm.
Yeah.
Very, in a few hours. So, I love it. So whatever you need help with, just ask.
Oh, well, thank you.
Truly
Michelle.
appreciate the time. Yeah.
Well, I thank you so much, gentlemen, for the opportunity to share myself, to share my business, and, with your audience, and also with yourself. So I truly, truly, from the bottom of my heart, thank you so much.